that is the only question of I don't feel it in my pocket that is on the table. That truly, honestly, as people who are well-read, know about the economy, if this government does not stabilize the economy and inject some growth, it just won't happen. So let's share that as a common narrative or lexicon. And then we go on to the issue of, well, how are you going to release monies at certain times to make sure that we also fulfill this thing. But truly, the issue of hardship compared to what? And I don't want to take it away from anybody except for us to have these discussions on a regular basis so that the effort is translated and it's not forgotten. And then what else we have to do is also brought to us so that we also push harder to do that. Otherwise, it will be very easy to begin to respond to that cry if you also keep emphasizing it without really explaining to our whole public the process that one needs to go through to get through the difficult times. So yes, in a sense, you'll be able to answer to that person that, well, I thought suddenly 2,000 or 3,000 cedis is not paid because of free SHS. That's something. Interest rates have somehow come marginally down, so the banks are not charging you as much as they should. So there are a lot of ways to make it a positive discussion as opposed to tilt it negatively. But for us, we will continue to do that. And a critical aspect is really also the issue of interest rates, as you have said, and then trawling through these contractor areas to see the legitimate ones that we can do. But in the end, it's a real question, gentlemen and ladies here, of why are we in this situation? And when you look at VAT penetration rate of 11%, we should be about 22 or 25. Obviously, we the citizens are not paying. When individuals like you and I are not paying our personal income taxes, that is also a reality. I think some showed some peer comparisons of Ghana's revenue to GDP being 15% as opposed to 20-25%. That's an awful lot of resources. That is a leakage. So at what point do we also honestly face ourselves as a country and everybody begin to contribute their part of that, So if that nice suited gentleman asks you, well, I'm not feeling in my pocket, ask whether that person has even ever filed his income tax before. And it's a very relevant question for a society that is growing, that wants to go beyond aid, that everybody fulfills their part of the responsibility that we have. And then we'll have that great nation that we are looking for. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we're going to take the last batch of questions. This time we'll take 5, up to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we're done. Madam, we'll start with you.
My name is Etonam. I report for TV3 and 3FM. And so from the presentation under the transformational agenda, government is shifting focus from taxation to production. However, concerns from businesses is that the environment to produce is almost non-existent because of a number of reasons. One of such is the fact that government is yet to disburse the stimulus package. They are not sure when it will be disbursed. Another issue that came up is the fact that the excise tax stamp will be enforced next month. According to stakeholders, the machine for even the stamps is expensive, and this is going to be this will add on to their cost of production, which will be passed on to the final consumer automatically. So what will be your reaction to that, Honorable Minister? My second question is Ghana Beyond Aid. There are concerns that the roadmap to getting Ghana there so that we are actually off foreign aid is not clear. What will be your concerns to that, and if you can outline to us what the roadmap is? My final question will be the Treasury single account. How many banks are on board, and what is the level of collaboration? Thank you.
We found a nice way to ask 4 questions. I'm tempted to disallow 2.
Thank you. My name is Toshiko we heard last year, specifically from Mr. Osapoma, that the government was considering a law to limit budget deficit up to 5%. I just want to know if that's still on the card. Secondly, to the minister, I just want to find out from him, going forward, what does the minister see as challenge to the economy?
Thank you.
All right. My name is Nana Jiman, and I write for BBC Radio. My question is on the TSA, Treasury Single Account. We know it was implemented somewhere last year, July. And from the presentation, we see the role it plays in curtailing the debt stock. My question is, how much, if the minister can tell us, how much do we have in that account? And probably what are the targets for the year? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. 2 final ones, yes, Bloomberg.
My name is Akomunus, and I report for Bloomberg. Mr. Minister, in the budget you spoke about a new $1 billion. Not too long ago, I heard you say you are looking at up to $2 billion. My further search suggests that, given the positive response you got from Asia, you seem to want to take advantage of the positivity and take more than you stated, in the budget. What is the situation? And 2, the figures are very impressive because we have excess revenue from crude oil. And given this growth, it even makes your deficit and possibly your debt to GDP look nicer, maybe without doing much. Come next year or the year after, when we have a broader base, won't these same figures turn against you? And Etonam is a very bad example, but let me add one question, just following up Etonam. Are you considering crude sale hedging as well, given the reports that we are hedging crude imports? Thanks.
Thank you. I think that's it for the 5 questions that we sought to take a quick recap. Tax to production is happening, but there are other elements like the stimulus package that people are still looking forward to, and worries about the excise tax stamp. Is there a roadmap for Ghana Beyond Aid? There are questions about TSA and the balance that it holds currently. What we're doing to ensure that we don't exceed the budget deficit limit. Do you foresee any challenges to the economy? How much for a possible Eurobond? And won't the broader tax base lead to future lower growth? Minister.
Well, thank you very much. Etonam, I don't know, the taxation to production, that's true. I guess my question about the environment not to be productive for industry. The environment really is not conducive and non-existent. It's difficult because it almost on the premise as if we had some really good times before, and then suddenly we have worsened the situation, and then we are asking you to produce. I think based in the context of where we are coming from, I think everybody is going to need to sacrifice and also, move, as gradually as we can. But in terms of the integrity of the effort that we are trying to do, I think that is self-evident to all of us. When you say the conditions are non-existent, you are presupposing that all the macro numbers have worsened, but really all the macro numbers have improved. And truly sometimes when people ask you these questions, I think you are free to challenge them. That, look, if the deficit was 9.3 and it's now, where it is at, under 6, I mean, it must mean something. If inflation was 15.4 and it's not, do you get me? Don't allow them to get away with it, and when the truth, is right in front of us, because then we begin to change the language, and a repetition of positive things leads to a change in mentality. But allowing us to repeat whilst things have changed, it just stops us. The last time the Jews were murmuring in the desert, going to the promised land, they just all got bitten by snakes and wiped them out. You get me? Let's see where we are going. I know maybe we are not moving fast enough, but in terms of the truths of the situation, should always be put back to whoever complains to you, because you're a journalist and you also have the numbers. And we should. The stimulus package, we were delayed in releasing, but that has been fully done, and therefore you could have confirmed that with them, that it has been done. The excise tax machines and all of that, I mean, I kind of understand, but truly, I'll let Kofi answer them. I think, this law was passed in 2013, so for any interested manufacturer, in terms of getting ready to do it, let the person not think that, oh, we just came and within 2-3 months we are legislating this. So you could have asked, well, so 2013 to now, what have you been doing about it? Let's put back the responsibility, on people when they ask questions. And I think that's a fair question. I think there are some issues that have been raised that we are going to, so you could do research to find out in other Western countries who pays for these machines. Do they question them? What happens there? Why is it that you are questioning the way it is done in Ghana? Of course it's a change, but if it's a change for better, why are we doing it in the first place? Because people are evading taxes. Okay, and we know that there's evasion of taxes, and we know it leads to our inability to be able to provide the social services. So we have to come to accommodation to make it happen smoothly, etc. But let's not ever question the need for the precision of these policies that we bring, and the need for them to be implemented, because taxes are necessary for that. The roadmap for Ghana Beyond Aid, I think the President's is going to be speaking about that, but there's a team working on cascading that into what is imaginable and what we can see. But essentially, in the end, you are looking for what he calls a self-confident society with opportunities for all and prosperity, which would take, some matrices into consideration, such as, home ownership, education, businesses, diversification of the economy, etc. So those who come, and we are looking at it expectantly. The TSA is interesting. Certainly, we've had some headwinds of that, no question about that. But as was described, and as Moses or Nanajiman mentioned, is crucial for us to go on. Now, there are two ways of doing that. There's a physical one where we actually lodge the accounts at the Bank of Ghana, and there's right now the capacity for me to look at everybody's account, MDAs, where they are, where I can sweep it, whether you, the bank, want to sweep it or not. Okay, so I still have that option to exercise. I'm waiting for good behavior, but but if I don't get a response within a certain time, I have the option to do that, and I will if the response is not there. In terms of limiting the budget under 5%, this year our target is 4.5% for the budget, and ECOWAS also talks about 3%. So we are living it, and certainly it is worth legislation so that it creates an irreversibility, so that no government can really derail the economy too badly. You had a second question.
Do you foresee any challenge to the economy?
Do we foresee any challenges to the economy? I think the real challenge to the economy is us as Ghanaians. That's the way. With regards to tax revenue, whether we really are ready to pay for our progress, and how GRA also simplifies the process and also becomes a customer-friendly institution is what the challenge is. So I'm praying that we're going to have some good national dialogue and conversations about tax payments. I think what is also important going forward, not as a challenge, is really a partnership with labor, so that the issues of productivity and how government can support, things like housing, etc., because once, in my view, labor and government are in sync, then we should be able to attain these things. But I'm very confident that our revenue issues will be resolved in terms of the work and the partnership with GRA. And I also believe that there will be other resources that will come to play that we have not even thought of. But I'm very, very comfortable and confident about that. As some of us say, some hidden treasures will be found, and they should be found. On the Euro bond, actually the budget didn't say Euro bond. Did it say Euro bond? It said sovereign bond. And I think it talked about 4-point-something billion Ghana cedis also. And we will stick to that. There's when you look at market conditions being good, it then makes you look at issues of liability management, which is not an add-on. So then you look at your portfolio of commitments or other bonds that you have, and see whether you can do something more effective with them. So that net is not we are really still at $1 billion, but you take advantage of market conditions to write some of those things. In terms of hedging, I think we've spoken about this before. I mean, hedging should be a pedestrian part of what we do for treasury management purposes and to avoid shocks to us. So as I mentioned to you, there was a committee looking at that. They've met a few times. I'm not sure when the report is supposed to be brought in. But I wouldn't, I wouldn't, make a big deal about it. It's something that we should, as a matter of fact, as a sovereign country, constantly be looking at your commodities and seeing how best you can mitigate fluctuations, etc. Yeah. Kojo?
Yeah, Minister, just before your closing remarks, Ms. Anti, as you indicated earlier, is available, and maybe he can also help us address that challenge I was talking about just before your closing remarks. Now, there are reports that the implementation of the tax stamp and the common external tariffs in the ECOWAS region constitute new taxes that will impose a burden on the business community. How do you juxtapose that with moving from taxation to productivity? Then when you're done, Minister can make his closing remarks. Maybe just give them a minute to get their mics to you.
Eva, are the closing remarks all right, or should we change something?
Yes, just reinforcing some of the things you said. Talk about.
Yeah. To support the Honorable Minister, what I have to say to Etnam is that the excises area, there are taxes in excise for two major reasons: to raise revenue and to also support public health in that area. And the excise tax stamp was passed in 2013. And the people grumbling, it's not like we've just bumped into them. We've had a lot of discussions with them. Especially for the food and beverage people. Mr. Agre, we've had discussions with him. And so it becomes a bit of a surprise in the posture. Actually, the other side to it is that there's been a lot of underreporting in that area. In 2010, revenue from excise formed 3.4% of the domestic tax revenue. But this has been falling to the extent that by 2017, we had fallen to 1.9%. So that basically the revenue contribution from the excise had halved in the period. And all that we are seeking to do is for us to have correct reporting of production and then the sales in the area. And also to ensure that counterfeit and illicit products are not marketed in the system. It's for the overall good of the health of the people and for the Ministry of Finance to have its share of the revenue from that sector. So that is it for the excise tax stamp. And on the...
Can they recoup the cost of the machines, etc.?
Yes. Considering the volumes and the values involved in the trade, it's recoverable. And in pursuit of that, we are giving an accelerated capital allowance regime for the purpose. For the first year, they qualify for 50% capital allowance, and the second year, 50% capital allowance. So when these numbers improve, we expect that these issues will be dealt with. And I've already raised the issue of the extensive engagement. And so that is it. And Kenya, for one, they initiated that process in 2016, 2017, they are on board. And it's like a shifting sand. We resolve the issue and they turn around and come again with a new position. But then we are resolved. The Honorable Minister needs his money. And we have to ensure he gets his money to run the country's agenda. So on the issue of the excise stamp, there's no going back on anything. We are going forward. That must be clear. Now, on the CTFM announcement this morning, we want to say that the issues which are in vogue are not true. No new taxes have been introduced. The HS code that the World Customs Organization uses for the countries worldwide is reviewed every 5 years. And when it is reviewed, there's reclassification of items. And some item lines have fallen into a situation where they are now vatable. And that is the situation on the ground. So on that score, I think there's nothing like a new tax that's been reduced. And the focus of the present government is from taxation to production. The sense of it is that the government wants the people to be profitable, and then at the end of the day, the government will take its share when you've made your profits. And that's, I believe, is the way to go. I think I've resolved the issue. Thank you.
So would I invite Minister to give his closing remarks so that we can all also get back to our various media outlets to put the news out.
Great. Thank you very much, and really thank you for being here and for the time that you have spent with us. So really from the presentation, it is quite clear that we spent last year looking to turn the economy around, or at least to stabilize it. And as you have all witnessed, the current indicators are really proof of the positive development and measures that we have implemented. And going forward, we'll be focusing on expanding the economy and creating more opportunities for all of us Ghanaians to be able to operate. And in a sense, we met sort of our key macroeconomic targets in 2017 and successfully completed the IMF fourth review program. We outperformed the deficit target of 6.3% to 6% from 9%. We reduced the total debt to GDP ratios to under 70%. We exceeded the annual real GDP growth target of 6.3%, somewhere around 8%. We reduced end-year inflation from 15.4% to 11.8% in 2017 to 10.3%. The ESLA bond was introduced, which helped to relieve some of the energy sector bonds. But it's I think really that the Vice President sort of captures it best in his New Year speech at Legon, where he said that the question that we should ask is how can you inherit a budget deficit of 9.3% of GDP, proceed to reduce taxes, because we talk about economic freedom, and abolish quite a number of taxes, which meant at a cost of 1 billion cedis or so, bring down inflation, bring down interest rates, increase economic growth from 3.6% to 8% plus, increase your international reserves to over 7 billion and 4.5 months coverage, maintain relative exchange rate stability, therefore, reduce the debt to GDP ratio and the rate of debt accumulation, pay almost half of your arrears inherited, stay current on obligations to statutory funds, restore teacher training and nursing allowances, double the capitation grant, implement free senior high school education, and yet still be able to reduce your deficit from 9.3% to 6%. So that's quite a remarkable story. And on the macro side, it is impressive to be able to physically contract and at the same time have the type of growth that we have experienced. I think the response from our international partners is also clear, as you see the tightening of the yields that we have.